What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about Lucid. I want to go over some of the data points, break it down on what's really moving it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So Lucid's up 0.23%, 21.66 the low, 22.25 the high. Very low volume though, so 1.8 million shares being traded, 11.6 is the average. During the pre-market, you did see it hit 21.11, so hats off to those individuals that did buy the dip because that was a fairly impressive recovery that did occur. Coming from a macro standpoint, there hasn't been anything coming out today to really move the broader market. We have FOMC minutes coming out at 1 o'clock, but that hasn't really been that big of a deal since 2024, in all honesty. But aside from that, nothing official from Lucid today, no SEC filings. One thing that, in my opinion, that's really moving Lucid is the latest flyover. And so clearly shows that Lucid is really starting to ramp up, kick ass. And yeah, so I think generally this needs to be done probably a little bit more of on a stronger scale, I guess, in order for them to truly hit their 2025 targets. But this clearly shows that Lucid is putting in a lot of effort. In this video, they do compare, I guess this flyover was on the 7th, so they do compare the 7th to the 22nd, massive night and day difference. So it goes to show that Lucid as well was really ramping up and trying to get as many deliveries out in Q3 as they could. At the same time, because of that $7,500 tax credit that did conclude on September the 30th, I think Lucid was trying to take advantage of that. Although, as I've mentioned, only the anyone doing leasing did qualify for that. One thing that Mark had mentioned in a previous interview was that Lucid was going to be extending that. We have still yet to find out what he means by that, if that's just going to be on a blanket, like everything, or if that's still just going to be for like leasing. So that's something that, again, we haven't really found out anything about. One thing that I would really like to see from Lucid that NIO and some other EVs in China do is they actually put out monthly numbers. I know that's just kind of not what typically American companies do, but honestly, there's nothing saying that you can't think outside the box. Lucid, especially when Mark came in, he said he wants to increase the level of transparency. For those of you that remember way back in February, I think that in among itself is like the best transparency that you can ever provide, right? So I think in general, like Lucid loves to say, hey, that motor intelligence website is wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong. Well, then provide us the right numbers. I think generally that could be something that us as retail investors pose as a question/suggestion for Lucid to really do, is just put out monthly numbers. And yes, it does impact the market, no different than it impacts Chinese EVs, but it does add the next level of transparency. So that's just my opinion, of course. And then one thing that is really moving Lucid a little bit, and you can kind of see exactly the point when it did come out, you had this crazy dip right here, and that was a rating. So you have a lot of BS type of articles, such as CFRA slashes Lucid's rating to strong sell, sees 54% downside. So I've called out this individual, Alfonso, numerous times, just a lot of very abnormally bearish articles on Lucid for really no reason. Like even based on some of his other articles, he's starting to talk about somehow taking Lucid private again. I feel like the timing is just very weird. So I don't know if they have a short position on Lucid or whatever else, but I've been calling him out, calling him a dumbass and whatever else. Aside from that though, the rating that did come out that caused that dip was right here, sell, $10 price target, CFRA, Garrett, who has a 54% success rating. So in all fairness, to give you a quick summary of it, popping over here, these are all the ratings from Garrett, CFRA. So you had the one that was just posted today, $10 price target. Even like previously, January 6th, 2025, it was 10. So there was no true change to the price target. Keep in mind that was $1. That was before the reverse stock split. And then prior to that, you had 20 momentarily. That was done October the 17th. And then all over the place, you had 40, 20, 10, 10. Again, that's kind of post reverse stock split. On a side note, if you do want to take a look at their reports, or any analyst reports, pop over to Moo. I have a link to them in the description below. And plus you can take advantage of this kick-ass promo. If you sign up, throw $100 at it, they give you $50 back. So that's a pretty good return on an investment in among itself. But aside from that rating, clearly market didn't care all that much and it's starting to move higher. Shorts increasing 283,000 shares, 29.82% of the free floats being shorted, works out to be 37.85 million shares. So we are now officially below 30%. So that is deserving of a round of applause. Because yeah, shorts for whatever reason have been returning quite a lot recently. So definitely something to take note of. DTC is sitting at 3.07 days. So that does also signal at the same time that shorts are very overextended still. So I think it's just a matter of time if Lucid does have some good stuff in their back pocket before shorts do start to really return. But as what we saw from the Q3 numbers, they really just need to ramp up. That's kind of the moral of the story, what they really need to focus on. But at the peak, shorts were increasing about 1.6 million shares. So when I was preparing for this video, that's kind of what they were doing. So they were partially the culprits on what happened right over here. Looking at the options, 2.6 million in calls, 3.7 in puts, and then 59% of all the options being done are bearish in nature. So this one stands out. 5.7 million in premiums between 9:15 and 9:20. So if we pop this open, look at the premiums, see what they are doing. It looks like based on the timestamp, it was a multi-leg transaction. So that's kind of extensive, but more oriented towards being bearish. So it looks like there was 2250 puts being purchased for this Friday, as well as a 2350 and also $20 call and put, and that's going to be for next Friday. Then you had a $25 call that was purchased, and that's for this Friday. So it looks like that is what that entity is doing right there. So again, multi-leg transaction. So ultimately they are anticipating for it to be kind of between that $22.50 and $20 range. That's kind of how I see things and interpreting that. And then going into next week, they see it for the most part being above 23.50. So a little bit more of a recovery is anticipated. From a bull standpoint, you see consensus for it to be above $25 for this week. So that's kind of crazy. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub 22.50. So definitely something to take note of. These are all the transactions occurring on the secondary market. I'll hit refresh. So just the two right now. Both are buys though. So one is for 1.28 million, the other one being for 105,000. So big money is buying into Lucid. Not really much selling going on. These are all the transactions occurring on the dark pool. So as I mentioned at the very beginning, we're seeing very low volume, so not really much activity going on. With it at 22.10, it is trading currently below this S3. So 22.32 is going to be that key point to really get above today. If not tomorrow, if you're going to see any sort of recovery. If not, then most likely you'll be seeing it get dragged down a little bit below that key point right here, and that is that 50-day moving average. So yesterday it did break below that momentarily. Luckily enough, it was able to close above that. Today it seems to be pounding on that door, but again, luckily enough, it did recover past that. So just watch for that 50-day moving average, 21.57. So that's going to be a very big deal for Lucid. Best case scenario, we close above that and start to just bounce off of that to have a nice V. Despite the, in my opinion, lackluster Q3 numbers, on a technical standpoint, Lucid does look like they want to recover. So like I said in the past, there's a lot of different ways how to interpret Lucid's price action. One is just the technicals. There's also macro events that moves Lucid, and also operational updates. So we did get the operational update recently. I'm not really that big of a fan of their numbers, but you know what? I think it's possible that they could achieve it. But again, you need demand to equal production. If you're going to see a massive lag in inventory, then that's going to be the same type of problem as 2022. But looking at the market position, you do see a little bit more comparing today versus yesterday. Not much activity, to be fully honest. So you could see a little bit of a recovery to that 22.83 in the short term. All Lucid will need is that nice gentle push. If, let's say, it does break below that 21.58, which again is that 50-day moving average, this is where you could see things get very real very fast. So aside from that, there hasn't really been all that much in articles coming out associated to Lucid. Algos are the big deal for today based on the flow, as you can kind of see right there. So at the end of the day, I think Lucid's doing fairly well given the circumstances. So let me know your general thoughts on Lucid. What's your kind of key takeaways from the most recent flyover? Do you think that's a good idea that Lucid potentially could do monthly numbers just similar to NIO and a lot of the other Chinese EVs, or do you think that's more problematic? So what's your kind of general thoughts on that? One final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto. I put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades. Worthwhile to pop over there and check that out. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.